Okay, so welcome everyone to Healing Through the Tarot. Okay, so a lot of this is going to be kind of my personal story kind of thing. So I think most of y'all know who I am. If you don't know who I am, my name is Melissa. I am the Empress of the Night's Light, formerly Empress of Wands. We've been through a lot of changes. We were just discussing that before we went ahead and recorded. Been through a lot of changes over here. All of us have. So we are just moving through those changes together. So there are many, many, many different ways to heal yourself. And I firmly believe that tarot is a huge tool in doing that for yourself as a supplement to anything else that you are doing as well. Okay. So in my humble opinion, I know many of the people here, I was going to ask everyone how many people are readers here, but I know many of y'all are because I have chatted with almost everyone here. So as you all know, as a reader, like it's not just something that you do. It's not just a profession if you're seeking a profession. It's not just, a part of your life. It's a big piece of your life, right? Like I consider myself someone who lives and dies by the tarot, like not physically, but spiritually dying by the tarot. Decks are not just decks. Decks are guides. Decks have attitude. Decks have feeling. Decks have emotion. Whenever you want a certain answer, you might go to a different deck, because you catch that vibe. They are a way to communicate with other realms, right? Like some of us, myself included, I really use my deck to communicate with my deities, right? And that all goes back to a huge part of this concept of healing through the tarot is learning how to trust ourselves, okay? And that's a huge piece of healing, right? Especially if we've been through trauma in the past, we've been through things that kind of took away our trust, not only our trust for other people, but also our trust for ourselves. So for me, tarot was a way that I could rebuild my trust. I figured out how to trust myself again because of tarot. I was able to pull and then something would happen, that essentially, I don't want to say it came true because that just sounds so phony, right? But whenever I say that it came true, I mean that it was something that, presented itself as being the truth for me, right? So whenever I am looking at things like this, I start to dive into, where has this gotten me along my path? And that's one of the things really it's taught me how to trust myself and trust my deity. Okay. That's the other thing, because once we learn how to trust ourselves, then we can start trusting our deities. We can start trusting our guides, our ancestors, whoever we are communicating with the tarot through that space. Okay. There's also some kind of peace that happens whenever we know the answers, okay? There's almost this peace that happens whenever and it's not necessarily knowing the answer, right? But there's this piece of knowing that if we needed an answer to a question, we could literally go to our cards, ask the question and receive an answer, okay? It's not always going to be the one that we want, but it will be an answer. So really being able to have that peace in such a world of uncertainty, so many things are uncertain right now. Our world is changing before our eyes, and being able to access some sort of answer that's going to bring us some sort of comfort. And sometimes the answers aren't comfortable, right? Sometimes the answers come in the form of, oh, I have a lot of work to do. I have things that I need to change. I need to evolve. I need to grow. But having those answers brings a level of peace to me that I can't even necessarily describe with words. It's almost like every time I pull cards, I get to know myself a little bit better. And I'm curious if, anyone else has, I'm just catching up on the chat. I see what Chris said earlier. I haven't been through any changes at all. That was great. I'm curious, whenever y'all pull cards, and you can put this in the chat if you want, do you feel like you are able to know yourself better? Do you feel like you are able to connect to yourself on a deeper level? Do you feel like you are able to hear clearly whenever you were doing that? Absolutely. Okay, cool. Yeah. Because I almost feel like if we are listening, right? Because that's the other piece. Okay. We can be working on all the things, we can be learning, we can be growing, things like that. But if we're not listening to the cards, are we going to be able to do the things? I don't know. I've ignored my cards a couple of times, but it wasn't a good idea for sure. I feel like they give truths. Yes, exactly. Exactly. And that's the other piece, right? Like whenever we are pulling cards and getting those answers, and we're looking at it and going, wow, I never would have thought that about myself. I never would have shared that about myself. I never would have had that idea about myself. Yeah. And the reassurance. I love that, being able to reassure ourselves of something, and knowing that we're on the right path. I think that's nice too, because it's almost like, at least for me, my cards start to get really angry whenever I'm going off the path. Okay. So something else that helps us heal through the tarot is being able to empower ourselves. There's something about being able to go seek your answer. There's something let me catch up on the chat real quick. Yeah, especially whenever we don't listen, the cards get mean. They get very mean. They start yelling at me and I'm like, oh no. And it's gotten better now, but it used to be like thing after thing after thing after thing before I finally woke up and said, oh, the cards were right. Now I'm a little bit better. I catch on. I'm a faster study than I used to be, so that's good. But, the cards can be very empowering for us, okay? Very empowering to know that we can be guided, and that's another piece, allowing ourselves to be guided. Because I don't know about y'all, but I have this thing about being told what to do, right? I don't like to be told what to do. So I had to switch my thinking. Like the cards aren't telling me what to do. They're showing me what it is I need to see, right? They're showing me the things that I need to be working on, need to be growing in, things like that, okay? So another way, of course, of using our tarot cards to heal ourselves is shadow work with the tarot cards, okay? And this is one of my absolute favorite things. Before I found the LHC, this is what I was doing for my shadow work, right? I still do tarot shadow work as well, but I enjoy Sissy's prompts, of course. So whenever we're doing shadow work with our tarot cards, we can pull, I used to pull a card a day, a shadow work card of the day. And, I would go over all of the prompts, right? All of the keywords. Okay, so am I being, like, let's just do an example. Let's do that. Oh, good. One of the ones I've been getting a lot lately. So we have the Fool reverse, and that's perfect because it's in its reversal. So, some of the questions I might ask myself with this is, am I behaving foolishly? Am I afraid of starting over? Am I not paying attention to this new path that's laid out before me? Because for me, the Fool always signifies this new path. So whenever it's reversed for me, I've learned that it's telling me that I'm not seeing something that's right in front of my eyes, okay? And those are things that I really enjoy doing with the tarot, right? Doing that shadow work with the tarot cards. I want to do another one. The Empress reversed. So how am I not nurturing myself? How am I not having compassion for myself? And specifically, whenever I'm doing the shadow work aspect, I always focus on myself, right? I'm always going to ask myself, why am I not doing these things for myself? Not necessarily to other people, unless it's something that's coming up over and over again in my shadow work. Mainly, I focus on myself because I am the center, right? Whenever we are doing our shadow work, we are the center. So, well, those were fun. I'm so glad those two that keep popping up for me came out here. That's wonderful. Another way that I have recently gotten into healing through tarot is through breath work, okay? I know some of y'all have been in on some of my breath work experiences, but I am doing tarot guided breath work, okay? So whenever I pull a tarot card and, now whenever people come to a breathwork experience, they help me choose the next card for the next experience. So that's been really fun. The experience this month is going to be on the 18th at 3 p.m. Eastern, and we are going to be breathing through the tower. So with this, it's like we get to focus on this theme, okay, this theme in our lives. So of course, with the tower, it's going to be chaos, destruction, allowing the lies to fall away, things like that, right? So we're going to be looking at those things and breathing through them, okay, and allowing the music to guide us through, right? The rock music, the metal music, because that's how I like to meditate. But I don't think we realize how often we go through our life and we're not taking deep breaths, right? So many of us, we're like, just kind of like surface breathing, right? But with breath work, it asks us to dive in deeper, right? And breathe through our belly and take those deep breaths and listen in. And there's something about that that brings us into this central location within ourselves. It brings us back to center. It brings us back to this grounding space. And that's why the breath work with the tarot is so helpful, because then we're breathing through those themes and I'm coaching you through releasing things and things like that, okay? It gets us into that meditative state where we're not so much thinking, but we are feeling, okay? And those feelings that have been stuck in our bodies will be released, okay? So let me go over my notes here. I think that is almost everything that I wanted to talk to y'all about. Oh, and one of the main things, this has been huge for me, is learning astrology. Okay, so I know, how does that relate to tarot? Well, of course it relates to tarot, because every tarot card has astrological is significant astrologically. I obviously need more coffee today. But with the astrology, it's like all of these beautiful little pieces fit together to make us who we are. Okay. I was talking to somebody else about some astrology the other day, and she was sharing, like, wow, I can't believe like all these little pieces fit me so well. I'm like, well, yeah, because they're all these little beautiful puzzle pieces. And whenever they come together, they create the puzzle that is us. And then we are able to exist in this world and navigate it and take notice of things. Because really, all this comes back to our own awareness, our own level of awareness. Are we willing to become aware of the things that are around us? Are we willing to listen to the cards whenever they give us a message? Are we able to be open to those messages? You know, and being able to sit back and observe the cards and witness the message that is being given to us is really key in healing through the tarot. So of course I have to do a little shameless plug, and then we're going to open it for questions. But if you are interested in any of the things that I have discussed, definitely check out the website. I can put it in the chat as well, but it's empressofthenightslight.com/new offerings. And that is where all of my new stuff will be. There's also a discount code on there for everyone who is attending the Krampus and Kringle market. One of the new offerings is weekly tarot guided shadow work prompts. Okay, so those are going to be $5.55 a month, because I wanted to choose a number of sacred freedom, and there it is. And each week you will receive anywhere between 5 to 7 prompts that you can be working on. All of them will be guided by tarot polls that I do, and then I will create prompts from that, send those out to you. And then every month we will have like a Zoom chat if you want to have a chat about the things that you've done. If not, then there will also be a Discord channel for all of that as well. And if you want kind of a combination of all the things, the tarot, the shadow work, the breath work, all the things, then Living by the Night's Light is definitely the thing to do. That is my new program. We align everything to our birth chart, as well as the moon phases, breath work, and tarot. We loop it all together so that we are living a more aligned life and really getting to know ourselves deeper as well. Okay, so let me catch up on the chat. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to either drop them in the chat or unmute yourselves. We can just kind of make the rest of this a little informal meeting here if y'all want. Okay. Oh, your cat hates it whenever you watch the live video. Oh, that's sad. Discount code. Yes, it would be a private channel on Discord. Yes. Yeah, I do have my Discord open right now. That's where I do my free reading Fridays now instead of on Facebook, because we all know how Facebook is. So, okay, does anybody have any questions or anything? I know this was kind of short, but just kind of wanted to get on here and talk to y'all, because we're moving into this winter Yule season, you know, and it's a really good time to go inward and really look inward and see what's happening inside of ourselves and working through that all, you know. Jen.
Okay. If you are working with a deck and then it's a newer deck,
Mhm.
and you pull a card, you've evaluated everything else, and you like what you're getting and you're learning off of that. Do you pull that card aside and like use every card in the deck first, and then when they're all done, you go back and reshuffle? Or do you just kind of, if you keep getting the same card, how does that work? How do you do it?
So are you asking like in reference for more like a shadow work purpose or just like learning a new deck at all?
Sometimes if I get 10 different cards, okay, and I'm going through the deck, after I have about 10, 12 sitting in a stack off to the side, because I read those, I got the messages from those, I'm wondering, do I then take them back, even though it's like maybe 10 or 12, and reshuffle? Or is it best just to kind of keep them to the side and use the deck itself first and then go back and reshuffle?
So usually I don't leave them out. One thing I will do is if I keep getting a card over and over and over again, and it's something that I'm either working on or letting go or something like that, I will put that on my altar. That is one of those things, and I leave it there for the day or a couple days or a week, whatever feels good to me. If I'm doing like shadow work and I keep pulling the same card, I'm gonna open up my guidebook because I don't always use the guidebook, right? But like if I keep getting the same card, I'm like, okay, I'm missing something and it's not coming through. So let me dig into the guidebook, let me look at that. But I usually put everything back together. I don't really
Okay.
leave everything separate unless I'm doing an ongoing shadow work thing, then I will use a separate deck for that. And then each day I will pull a new card or pull a couple cards or whatever it is. But for the most part, I put everything back together um, and keep everything together like that. And if it keeps popping up, then I'm like, oh man, I better work on that. I better start doing it. Does that
Okay.
help?
Hmm.
Okay, cool. Okay, does anyone else have any questions? Let me see what's happening over here. Yep, cats. I love cats. Yeah. I love all the chat about cats over here. Okay, so I think that's like all I really had for y'all. Don't really have a whole lot else going on. I do know that up next is going to be Magda of the Dark Rose at noon, so that's going to be super fun. Jasmine, did you have a question?
I did the unmuting. Okay. Question. How often do you find yourself pulling for yourself, getting your initial reactions to it, but then leaving it there and then coming back to it after to refocus on it? Because I tend to do that a lot.
Yes. Yes, I do that as well, especially if it's something particularly heavy, especially if it's something that is maybe initially confusing, like kind of like how we were talking before about, having that card and just kind of looking at it and it keep coming up. That's whenever I leave it and I come back to it later, especially if I have other things that I need to do, because it's almost like, okay, well, I got to focus on this stuff first. I'm going to come back here and revisit it. Yeah, I'll revisit it. I'll pull clarifying cards, all the things, because I think it's really important, you know, being willing and being focused on finding the answer, if that makes sense. Okay. Okay. Well, if that is all, then I will go ahead and get off of here. If y'all do have any questions later on, I know this wasn't like super heavy. It was more like just like a little coffee chat, but that's kind of the way I wanted it. Didn't really want anything super heavy. I don't know about y'all, but I'm definitely into seeking my joy this season. Very much seeking my happiness, doing the work, of course, but focusing on, okay, let's just get happy. Let's find our happy and our joy, shall we? Light that spark. So if y'all do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me via Facebook or via email on the website, however you feel like reaching out to me. Either way, I will see y'all next time. So thank you all for jumping on. I appreciate it. I know it's kind of early for some of y'all where y'all are at. So I appreciate y'all jumping on so early. So, okay, y'all have a great rest of your day. Bye, y'all.